you wanted the best, you've got the best podcast, the hottest podcast in the world. The Chris Voss Show, the preeminent podcast with guests so smart you may experience serious brain bleed. The CEOs, authors, thought leaders, visionaries, and motivators. Get ready. Strap yourself in. Keep your hands, arms, and legs inside the vehicle at all times, because you're about to go on a monster education roller coaster with your brain. Now, here's your host, Chris Voss.
Hi, folks. This is Voss here from thechrisvossshow.com. Ladies and gentlemen, the latest things that makes official. Welcome to the big show. For over 16 years and 24 episodes, we bring you the most amazing minds, the most amazing stories, the most amazing journeys, and all the lessons of life and how you can live your life better through the eyes and experience of other people. Because sometimes it's, that's how we learn. That or we make our own mistakes to learn. But, the great thing is the people, the great authors that come on the Chris Voss Show, they can share with you their stories and blueprints of life and help you get through your issues quicker. If you're just listening to me, well, I can't help you at all. That's what the guests are for, to help you. Anyway, refer the show to your family, friends, and relatives. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Chris Voss1 on the TikTokity, and Facebook.com/Chris Voss. The opinions expressed by guests on the podcast are solely their own and do not necessarily reflect the opinions of the host or the Chris Voss Show. Some guests of the show may be advertising on the podcast, but it is not an endorsement or review of any kind. Today, an amazing young man on the show, Andy Campbell, joins us. He has a book that's coming out August 5th, 2024. It is called Overcoming Life's Toughest Challenges, 15 Breakthrough Core Beliefs to Transform Challenges into Opportunities. And he has had quite the journey, ladies and gentlemen. I was reading his bio before the show, and he's done some things there, experienced some things, and he, if anybody can speak to resilience, I think he can. Andy Campbell is a survivor and inspirational author who has overcome numerous life-altering challenges, a victim of childhood sexual abuse and bullying, a survivor at ages 9 and 11 of attempted murder, where recovery from one required several corrective surgeries, the loss of his mother at an early age, and eventually estrangement from his father, his battle with stage 4 pancreatic cancer, and the loss of his youngest son to suicide. Despite enduring a life of traumatic events, multiple surgeries, grueling cancer treatments, and tragic loss of his youngest child, he has demonstrated remarkable strength and perseverance. Through his experiences, he's developed a unique perspective on resilience and the power of his 15 core beliefs. Welcome to the show, Andy. How are you?
I'm good, Chris. How are you? It's a pleasure to be here. Thank you.
It's a pleasure to have you as well, sir. Give us your .coms. Where can people find you on the interwebs?
Yeah, primarily the best place to reach me. You can reach all the other avenues from askandycampbell.com.
So give us a 30,000 overview of what's inside the book.
Well, the book is really my life collection of things that I believe to be true that have helped me through, that have given me aspirational targets when I've received or have been a part of difficulties, very difficult times, to recenter myself and continue to move forward. And so over the years, I wrote down these, what amounted to eventually 15 beliefs that I kind of installed in my internal system, kind of like a piece of code. I would install these core beliefs so that when something, whether it was a personal event that happened, a family event that happened, a business event that occurred, I would have kind of these default programs that would run when maybe my normal programming might fail me. And so that's what the book is about, is two parts. One discusses the core beliefs and how they apply to life. And the second half is just about, how to use them and the other things you need to put around them: community, faith, those things that drive perseverance and finishing.
Now, it's billed as you've tried self-help books before, and there's a lot of them out there. They're on every TikTok video, I guess, these days. But they didn't work for you. And so why is your book different? What are some of the unique aspects of it?
Well, I think, look, I've been through a number of things. While I can't identify with every tragedy in life, I can identify with a fair number of tragedies. Yeah. And so I think I did not set out to be an author or to really write a book. What I decided to do was to share with people along my life's journey. There have been people who have given me a little encouragement that kept me going on difficult days. And I decided that I wanted to put down on paper so that I could share with people some things that have encouraged me, some things that I believe have helped me. And I wanted to share those with people to encourage them. You know, it's kind of in, I guess, the self-help category, but what it really is just the things that I believe people can adopt that I have used, but they can adopt them and adapt them to their own personality, their own challenges, and maybe they will help them. I've never believed in prescriptive mechanisms because we're all individuals. And this is written in a way that I hope people will look at and find things that are practical. I think to me, a lot of self-help books are notional if you do these kind of very high level things, or either they're very focused on one particular traumatic event, how to get through that. For me, these 15 core beliefs can be applied to a variety of issues and challenges, whether, like I said, it's a physical trauma, it's an emotional trauma, or it's just a difficulty in your work life or your relationships. I think it applies across the board. It's really about having a mindset.
And that mindset is so important in how you approach stuff, how you view stuff as it comes at you in life, and how you meet it and greet it, I suppose. Can you tease out a couple of we want people to buy the book, of course. You got to buy the book to find out the full list, but can you tease out maybe a couple of your favorite of the 15 or ones that maybe have really helped you?
You know, one of them, I will. I'd start with there are no hard decisions. There are only hard consequences. It's a lesson that I believe I learned. Well, I know I learned it during my cancer treatments, and I believe it is true many times. And you see this in business a lot, right? People will say, I don't know, that's just a hard decision, right? And and it's often frustrating because to everyone around that person, it's actually not hard. It's very straightforward, like make the decision. And I think I was going through cancer treatments, and there came a point where the chemotherapy was killing me faster than it was killing the cancer cells.
Wow.
And I had this small voice, this still small voice. I don't know why I'd gotten quiet, but all the anxiety had gone away, the worry had gone away. Maybe I was too exhausted to be anxious about it. But I had this little voice that said, it's time for you to stop the chemotherapy. And at the time, there were no other treatments. So stopping the chemotherapy was, when you have stage 4 pancreatic cancer, at least 7 years ago, there weren't a lot of treatment options. You had a couple of types of chemotherapy, but it was basically chemotherapy. And I had done a lot of chemotherapy. And so I thought about it. And what came to my mind was every negative thing that might happen. But I thought it was certainty that it would happen. I would die a horrible death. I would leave my wife and children. My children and my wife would take care of me through this journey. My children would see me struggle the way I saw my mother struggle before she died from cancer. And so I had all these negative things that happened. And without going through everything that occurred over the next 6 months from the day I decided to stop chemotherapy, 6 months later, I was in a trial at the University of Pennsylvania, and I've been in that trial for 6 years now. And I'm coming up on my 7th year. And as of today, while I will never be in remission, I'll always be a stage 4 pancreatic cancer patient because there's not enough people who have survived this long. But as of today, I have no visible signs of disease in my body. When I have a CT scan, if you didn't know I had pancreatic cancer, you would not know I had pancreatic cancer. And what I learned through that was that everything that I thought was going to happen, all the consequences that I thought were going to occur, I never once thought of a positive consequence that would happen if I stopped chemotherapy. And the only things that happened to me after that, there were some difficult days, really hard days after that, but overall, it was a positive outcome.
Wow.
And I realized that the decision to stop chemotherapy was not a hard decision. It was the perception of the consequences that were going to happen if I did take that action.
Yeah.
And so then I thought, well, that's what humans do. We pick up our perceived consequences of making a decision and the difficulty of those consequences, and they may not even be real. It just may be what we think will happen. We know the right decision to make. Like in our deepest part of our soul, we know what the right decision to make is. And then we pick up the hard consequences and we put them on top of the decision. And when people ask us, why haven't we made a decision? We say, well, it's just a hard decision. But it turns out it's not a hard decision. You know what decision to make.
Yeah.
It's just you have allowed the consequences that you perceive that will occur from that decision. You've picked those consequences up and put them on top of the decision. So one of the things I work to do, it's a core belief, is to separate what I believe or think the consequences will be from the decision that I should make. I work to make the decision without the consequences, being the primary factor. What is the right thing to do? What does my soul tell me the right thing to do is? If it's in business, sometimes the right thing to do is we have to make a change in the business. We have to make some layoffs, or we have to make an investment. We have to do things. If it's a health treatment, you may be fearful of making a change, but maybe you need to make a change. So I think most times we know what the right thing to do is. We're just afraid of the consequences.
Oh. And it's because we're focused on the negative parts of the consequences, and maybe we're ignoring the options of the positive part, and maybe we need to open our aperture a bit more.
I think that's certainly part of it. Another core belief is always understand the difference between thinking and knowing. And so I thought I knew what the consequences would be, but I didn't actually know the consequences. And so I think we have to be very ruthless and introspective and dissect what we think the consequences will be, and be honest with ourselves. Do we really know what the consequences will be? And if the consequences weren't what we anticipate, would it change the way we would think about the decision? So I think we have to work in a disciplined way to separate what we think will occur from what we know will occur. And most of the times we actually, since we can't see into the future, we know very little. And so we should lessen the amount of emphasis we put on the things that we think will happen. I mean, we should do the right thing. I think generally human beings, when they quiet their mind in either prayer or meditation, or just, stop listening to this, this rabbit or this gerbil that's running around the hamster wheel in our head. I guess it'd be a hamster then. Yeah. If we stop listening to that, then we probably already know what the right answer is. And we should do the right thing, even if we fear the consequences. If we know it's the right thing to do, we should do that instead of being fearful of the consequences and letting the consequences change our mind.
Yeah. Tell us about your story in your own words. I mean, I kind of alluded to some stuff in your bio, but people like to hear it from you. What was your journey through life and some of these things, and how did you develop, I guess, throughout the story of your life, the 15 cores, and maybe they came to you in different points or different places and stuff. Give us kind of a rundown on what you want to discuss about that.
Well, they did. They came to me in, one at a time, and I would write them down. Chris, you hear words, I hear pictures. And so when you speak, I don't actually, it's like a word doesn't come to me, but a picture starts forming in my mind. And so these phrases were things that I had observed. And as the picture formed in my mind of the circumstances the circumstance I was in, how I had gotten through that circumstance, what did I observe in other people who had been through difficulties, I would kind of come to these pictures of what I believed to be something that was true, like a phrase. And then I would create a phrase that basically was like a meta phrase that would remind me of that picture, so that whenever I had a difficult circumstance, I could kind of revert back to that picture and remember how I needed to behave, or what I needed to do, kind of what was the next thing I needed to do. And over time, I collected 15 of them. I've been through a number of circumstances that, are certainly difficult. Whether that's, you read the bio, don't have to go back through all of them. But, there is a point in life where you don't know that that's not normal, right? You don't know that it's not normal until you get a little older, and then you realize it's not normal. And then what you don't realize is that these characteristics have the way that you survived those situations, those characteristics have then become kind of ingrained in you. The way you manage risk, the way you control situations, the way you look at life, the way you build relationships. And so then you realize that it's permeated so much of your being, how, this survival mechanism, that it's affecting everything. It's not just affecting, yourself or your person, or the people closest to you, it's affecting your business. It's affecting your business relationships. It's affecting your outlook on life. And so, one of the things that I want to convey to people is that, first of my core beliefs is no one outruns the universe. If you've had difficult things happen to you, then you're not going to get away with not confronting those difficult things and the impressions that they've left on your life. You should do the hard work to confront how you have managed your life by surviving difficulties. What have those characteristics left you with? And are you causing any of your own problems now later on? It's not always somebody else's problem, Chris. Sometimes, you're the problem, right? I mean, I heard a saying a while back that said, you're wondering, am I having a bad day? And the day is wondering why it's having a bad you. And so, I think we should confront our own contributions to our situation. If we have bad relationships and we have that over and over again, there might be something we're contributing to having bad relationships, and we should confront those things. So,
you want me to be self-accountable and self-actualized?
What the hell? Give it a try. I mean, everything else, for me, everything else failed. And at some point it was like, well, maybe I'm the problem.
Yeah. I mean, that's many times through your life, I've woken up and, why am I struggling with this or that? And it's like, oh, I'm the problem.
Yeah. Well, I think to me, there's three types of problems that we encounter, right? There's those things that are just kind of out in the world, like the writer of Job said that the rain falls on the just and the unjust. So there's just universal things that happen. Someday it rains on you. Some days it rains on somebody else. That just happens. Then there's the things that other people do to you. You can't really control what they do to you, but you can control how you respond to it. They always say that in therapy. It's a lot more difficult than just saying that to actually do it.
Yeah.
And then there's the stuff you contribute to yourself, like if you weren't paying attention and you were in a car crash, you can't really get upset with the insurance company for being mad at you or, the damage you have to pay for. You weren't paying attention. Maybe you just brought that on yourself,
Yeah.
And so own the responsibility for it. Or maybe, I've certainly done it before. I've had to go back and apologize because I became too, quote unquote, passionate during a meeting at work. And I had to go back and apologize, own it. Don't blame everybody else for every problem, right?
That's true.
Yeah. So.
That's true. I thought it was interesting how you approach a way to get outside of the box of sometimes the ego that drives us and everything else. And who do you find the book tends to help most, or it's targeted to most?
Books targeted to anyone who has, I call them setbacks. I mean, it could be a job loss. It could be if you've had a loss. Okay, if you've had a loss. And you find yourself in a situation where you're kind of stuck, or the loss was shocking to you and you're not sure what to do next, and you find yourself a little bit adrift. What can I do? What is the next thing? Or if you find yourself, if you're in a desperate situation, my youngest son took his own life. If there may be people listening to your show that are having suicidal ideations, no one would know because they put on a good face, but underneath the covers, they're out of hope. Life is desperate. I think what I hope the book does, who it speaks to, are the souls that are in desperate situations and they're not sure what to do next, right? They think tomorrow won't be better than today. They think a year from now, their lives will not be better than today. And I want them to be encouraged to persevere, to use some of these core beliefs for themselves if it's helpful. But if they don't read any of this, if they don't use any of it, I would still want to be encouraging to them as someone who's been through a number of difficult circumstances to say to them, all hope is not lost. Do not end your life in despair. Do not give up on life. Some people end their lives not by killing themselves, but they end their lives by just giving up on hope in life. They give up on joy in life. And so I would just want to be an encouragement to them that you can overcome these situations.
Yeah. Sometimes that ego brain whips you so much. There's only one way you feel like you can quiet it, especially if you have like OCD, ADHD, things like that. It can really be abusive. But there's ways through it. And that's why we have gentlemen like you on the shows, share the blueprints of success and survivorship. And, life is a survival's game. You mentioned no one outruns the universe. I mean, it's a grand survival game when you really look at it, wholly. I like one of these core beliefs you have, several of them actually, but I think some just kind of stick out at me. Maybe I'm hungry right now. Every challenge has a chewy nugget center made of opportunity. Do you want to tease that out a little bit to us? That one?
Yeah. So there was a time when I really liked milk chocolate and a couple of candy bars in particular, and I think that's when I wrote this one down. I'm not a big fan of the cliche, every dark cloud has a silver lining, because to me, visually, again, I'm a visual person. So for me, visually, why would I ever go in the dark cloud? I would just hang out the silver lining.
Yeah.
I'd stay outside of it. But I don't think that's the way life is. I think we all go through these, what I think Carolyn Mays calls the dark night of the soul, right? You get into these places where you feel like there's no hope, or it's just a very difficult time. You know that you'll get through it, but it's going to be very painful. And I think that those circumstances are not necessarily there so that we will find some bit of wisdom. But I think it's kind of like the red car theory, like you buy a red car. Nobody had a red car until you bought one. Now everybody's got one.
Yeah.
I think it's what we put our mind to, what we focus on. That's what we see. So when we have a red car, we focus on everyone else's red car. And we become aware of that. And I think if you're in a challenge, it has happened to me in every situation. As I've persevered through the challenge, if I focus myself to pay attention for things I can learn, bits of wisdom I can take with me, techniques that I can use the next time, they're always present. They're there. You just have to have the will to open your aperture, open your eyes, focus a little bit to look for the opportunity. I think too many times we're in the midst of a problem, again, whether that's a business problem, whether that, the whole customer deal has gone to hell in a handbasket and it was your biggest deal of the year. And now what are you going to do? Look, in every situation, we can either focus on how bad things are, or we can deal with how bad things are, and we can convince ourselves to pay attention to those opportunities that might be there, right? If you were in the middle of a bad situation and I said, today, I'll give you $50 for every opportunity you can find that would come out of this bad situation, you'll find a couple. You'll be motivated to find a couple. So we have to motivate ourselves in the dark times to find something that will benefit us when we're not in the dark times.
Yeah, everybody goes through a bit of dark times in their life, and you've got to be able to, survive. I mean, it seems like it almost seems like it's an intentional, but like I said, I think it's a survivor game. And it seems there's things that come to us that make us grow. What's that old saying? I always like to say, in those moments, that which doesn't kill me makes me stronger. At least it's supposed to. I mean, I'm missing a leg, but an arm, but it'll grow back.
Well, I mean, look, the number one cause of death since the beginning of humanity, okay, whether you want to say that was 1 million years ago, 300,000 years ago, 6,000 years ago, it doesn't matter. The number one cause of death since the birth of humanity has been birth. That's the number one cause of death. Everybody dies.
We finally got that.
Now it's a matter of timing. You can have other causes, but you can have other reasons, but the cause of death is birth.
Yeah.
And so we're all going to experience it. I don't know. I actually don't know of anyone who doesn't have dark times, who doesn't have desperate times that come into their lives. And so the objective now is, how do we persevere? And to me, these core beliefs are how I've persevered, because I believe the ultimate objective is to finish the race.
Yeah.
Right. And so if you're going to finish, you've got to persevere.
Yeah. Or at least get as far as you can. I mean, sometimes people have a shorter run than others, but they do amazing things with that time.
They do.
And then some people have a long run and don't do much. But maybe, I don't know, maybe that's the contribution is the long life. I don't know. What am I? What do I know? I like one of the other rules.
It's all a guessing game, man. It's all a guessing game, you know?
I mean, all you can do is just every day be the best person you can be, and try and make the world a better place. And that's all you can do, because you may not be here tomorrow, and you don't really have a choice on it. So you just got to do what you got to do. I love this rule, the 38 special rule: hold on loosely, but don't let go. Boy, I remember when that was all over the radio.
Right. I mean, it's, I wrote that down because we grew up around that song, right? Like,
yeah.
But one day my oldest daughter was out at a field trip, kind of a nature trip. And she was, I don't know, 7, 8 years old, something like that. And they were at this pond, and she reached down and she picked up a tadpole, and she was looking at it, and she was showing my wife the tadpole, and she didn't want to lose it. So she held onto it very tightly. And by the time she got it back to the water, it had passed away. Aww. She had crushed it. Aww. And I thought, that's a great song. I like that song, but I actually think there's some truth in that, primarily around, again, the core beliefs. They're not like, I don't think they're things that haven't been said before or known before. I mean, hell, that one's got a song that was written about it, right? Mm-hmm. I mean, everybody's heard it, but it's a reminder to me that control is an illusion. And that most of the time when you work to control something, you actually end up damaging it. That you can be involved without control. Yeah. And so it's a reminder. It's an aspirational goal to check myself and to a lot of this is about personal responsibility, Chris, when it comes right down to it. Like, a lot of it is you have to not blame other people, but start looking at your own self for what you have contributed, positive and negatively, and what you can contribute, positive or negatively, to your life and those around you. And one of the ways you do that is take responsibility of your own actions. And one of those actions is don't think that you control outcomes, because you actually don't control outcomes. You can contribute to them, but you don't control them.
Yeah. Especially when dealing with other people, because they have their own minds, their own agendas, and everything else. It's hard to control other people.
Well, I had to deal with that when my son, took his own life, right? I mean, I thought, it only dawned on me afterwards, I thought that I had been, my wife and I had been keeping him alive. We had known, he told us he wanted to end his life when he was 9 years old. He saw, he was highly intelligent. He was very logical to his detriment. And he said, look, I don't understand what this life is for. You're born, you suffer, you die. Why not just cut out the middle part? Like, why would I want to go through all that suffering? So I think you can't. What I realized after his passing was that I had never actually been keeping him alive. I thought I was controlling the situation. I was keeping him from taking his life. But what I realized was I had never been keeping him from taking his life. He had been making a decision every day not to end his life, until the one day he decided to end his life. And I think it was just a reminder to me of that particular rule. I could be involved, but the truth is I couldn't control anything. I had no control. And I think it's an illusion. I think we can control things, but Chris, we don't actually control anything. I mean, hopefully for as long as we possibly can, we'd like to control, our bowels. That'd be good.
That'd be good.
But being my hands. There's times when you can't do that. So
yeah, after Taco Bell buffet night.
100%.
Yeah. So tell us about some of the offerings you do on your website. You do coaching, consulting. I see you do speaking engagements here. Tell us about some of the resources you offer there.
Yeah. Again, it's all built around sharing. I don't really have an optimistic story. I believe I have a realistic story, that there will be challenges in your life and that you can persevere and overcome a lot of them. Some of them, death is one that you're not going to overcome, but you don't have to join in. You don't have to help it along. You can resist that urge. And so anything that I do with other folks, whether it's speaking to groups or speaking with individuals or sharing the information on the website for the things I've done in my struggle against cancer, that they can look at, investigate, and adopt themselves. It's really all geared around sharing a story. I don't know if you call it a story of hope, but it's certainly a story of being able to persevere. I think we can encourage people to persevere, right? The story of the Good Samaritan is really just a story of perseverance.
Yeah.
I mean, what he really did was he helped, the traveler. He bandaged him, but he helped him persevere through that difficult time. So I think that's kind of what I would like people to take away from their engagements with me, their conversations with me, is that the truth is life is hard. Bad things will happen. You don't know when they're going to occur. They're happening to someone right now. They're not happening to you and I at this moment, as far as we know, but they're absolutely happening to other people. Are finding out at this moment that they have cancer. Other people are finding out that a loved one is left. Bad things are going to happen. However, we can survive those, and we can make it through to the other side of those terrible losses.
Yeah. This is the thing that we love about the show, what we share with people, the blueprints of survivorship, the blueprints of getting through stuff. Everyone goes through sometimes different things in life. Sometimes they're kind of similar or overlaid in how you can overcome them. But having those resources, and the great thing is, with what you've done is you've shared your story. And a lot of people, I talk sometimes about throughout my life where I was afraid, or I thought, sharing this story is kind of selfish. Like, who cares? So my dog died, who cares? How I got through it, yada, yada, yada. Who cares? But people care, and I've held back sharing stories, then finally shared a story, and then just been shocked at how many people it impacted, how many people it helps. I mean, there are stories that I've shared of survivorship that I shared in 2013, 2014, and people still come up to me and they remember that more than anything about me, and they'll tell me how I helped them. And so it's really wonderful how we can share each other's stories. We can share each other's blueprints of survivorship with each other, and we can help lift and inspire. And it's just amazing how much that reach goes out to where we touch people that we maybe never see or hear from. That's the great thing about books, is they can go out to people. And, if you're lucky, every now and then someone comes to you and goes, "Hey man, what you told me helped me." But it's so great that we have these things, and you've shared them in your book, because you've gone through some stuff in your life, my friend. You definitely have. You're a survivor of survivors there.
Well, what you just talked about is super important to me. I've had people come up to me. When I talk about the loss of a child to suicide, I know that I believe that someone who's in that mindset at that moment, right? They're in a state of despair. They have no hope. Like, they believe that life will not get better. They believe that everyone else will be better if they're not here, or they believe that people will get over it and they'll move on. And I know that for most people in that situation, what I'm about to say might not resonate with them, but I have heard that at least for one person, it did resonate with them, and that makes it worth saying again.
Yeah.
That all of those things are untrue. When someone takes their life, the pain does not go away. People are not better off that you're not here. They will never get over your loss. The only thing that happens is you leave. The pain stays, and then it spreads like a cancer to everyone that loved you, everyone that knew you, and even people who don't know you when they hear your story. Yeah. And so it's the worst possible outcome. It's the worst possible way to attempt to solve a problem, is to take your own life, because all that's happened is you have left. Everyone's left with the loss of you not being here, and the pain that you thought you were taking with you, or you thought was going to be gone. And maybe you don't even care. Maybe you just want to get away from the pain, but that pain will stay. Yeah. And the better thing to do is to stay here and confront the pain and work to lessen, or maybe even eventually remove completely that pain, and leave for those who come in contact with you and those who hear your story, leave for them a story of perseverance. Leave for them a story that when they're in a dark place, they too can survive it. They don't have to take their own life. And I've had a person or two say that when they heard, that perspective on it, it made a difference. It changed their mind about taking their life. And if that's the case, then sharing the story of my son's passing and what I believe I've learned from that passing is worth being transparent about it.
Living a life, helping people, trying to be positive. Sometimes it's kind of one of your other methods. Kind of speaks to what you just said. Let me see if I can find it really quick. I think it was keep going through your thing. Always fall forward. Keep moving towards your goals, even when you fall.
Yeah. That's a kind of a visually when I see that, I think for almost anyone who played sports or you've had something happen, you've been hit so hard you fell backwards.
Oh, yeah.
And the fastest way to get back up and get in the game is to roll over, get on your knees and hands, and then slowly, as fast as you can, get back up and start running back toward the direction that you needed to go. And that one is it's an aspirational goal that I've kind of I've installed it as a default program so that when I'm hit with something and I don't know what to think, I don't know what to do next, I don't think the long journey at that point. I don't think, how am I going to get back from this setback? I just think in that moment, mentally, maybe physically, but certainly mentally, get your mind back in the direction you need to go to achieve your goal. Whatever that goal is, maybe the goal's changed. Maybe in the case of the cancer diagnosis, it was just survival. It wasn't like, the goal, get back to, but the idea is to remind myself to get my mind back into a place. So the very first thing I want to do is reset my mindset and focus on a goal. And that's the first thing. Then I'll take the next step when I'm ready to take the next step. But that keeps me from getting kind of wandering around in the desert. And I think after you've had a very difficult circumstance, it's easy to wander around in the desert, right? Uncertain of what the next thing to do is. And so for me, that's kind of the default program. What's the next thing you do? You fall forward. Get your mind back on the goal. Get yourself straightened out.
Yeah. I find two things help me in moments of crisis: stopping and getting quiet and having gratitude, like looking around and going, okay, what are my assets? What do I still have? Because, sometimes it's a loss. You lose a business, or you lose money, or you lose, something. And so a lot of times what I'll do is I'll start with gratitude, and I'll sit down and go, okay, something was taken from me that was never mine, really, when it comes down to it. Memento mori. Recently, last year, I lost my dog, and adopting Stoicism's memento mori really helped me, because one of the things I really felt that really hurt me with my first couple dogs that I lost was I thought something had been taken from me, that it was mine.
Yeah.
And that's not how the universe works. And, my dog was on her journey. It wasn't my journey. It was her journey. She was the one who had to live her life. She was the one who developed leukemia. She was the one who had to go through it as she wound down. That was her journey. And me being selfish and being like, well, I wish she could stay a few more years, it's not how it was all going to work out on that plane, And so I had to kind of realize and be grateful that I got time with her, and that she passed through my life. And that was good. That was fine. That was what I was allotted from the universe. And so coming out the other side, I had to be grateful for the time that I had. And then I had to move forward, like you say. And sometimes, I always kind of imagine it as this dark tunnel, and that light at the end of the tunnel. And you just got to keep plodding. You got to keep moving. You got to keep trying to find your sea legs. And that's really what a lot of people do. As long as that light at the end of the tunnel is a freight train coming your way.
Yeah, well, you hope. But I think what you just described is, look, people have asked me, like, where do these core beliefs fit in? Like, are they long-term? Look, they were almost all forged in that space that you've described as that tunnel between that event and the time when you're kind of able to walk back out into the light. Those times when you're not sure what direction to go, you can't really see anything you're uncertain about how things are going to work out. You're in grief. You're sad. You've lost a companion that's meant a tremendous amount to you, and now that's gone. That's really what these core beliefs are about. It's like, no, they apply more broadly in life and in business. But when you're in that tunnel, when you're in that dark night of the soul, you need something to kind of carry you forward when you don't know what to do. You need some guidepost. That's what they're for. And I think I've certainly had to think along the same lines that you just described. Look, sometimes it's not about what's taken from you. It was just that it was what was given to you for a season of life.
Yeah.
Right. And that season of life would have been a lot less had I not had this gift that was given to me.
Yeah.
You know, I've been blessed to have really good dogs and real companions. And I know one in particular, he ended up with like this lung disease, and he wasn't even a smoker. He wasn't a smoker, but he ended up with this lung disease, and he was struggling to breathe at the end. But and it was painful to watch him go. You know, I held him when he had to be put down and cried like a baby. But I look back on the times that I spent with him, and man, my life would have been so different without him. Right? Like, just he brought joy to me. He had, I think he had a hole in his love tank. It was constantly empty, you know, or on the verge of being empty. So he constantly had to have affection. And so you couldn't really have like a bad day, because if you were having a bad day, he needed attention. Like, I don't know, there was just like this thing. He would just suck all the bad day out of you, you know, like his being would just kind of take it away from you. And I'm very grateful for the time. I miss him.
Yeah.
But I think you do have a choice to think about, you know, he was taken from me, or he was gifted to me for a period of time. And in a lot of ways, I have to think about my son that way. You know, I had him for a period of time. It wasn't mine. I didn't get to make the decision. I would have made a different decision for him. But I'm grateful for the time that I did have him. I'm grateful for the time that he was in my life.
Yeah. It's a challenging thing to go through. And if anybody's out there in an emotional state where they're thinking about taking their own life, or they need some emotional support, reach out and talk to a friend. Reach out and talk to people what's going on. You know, the worst thing you can do is bottle that up and keep it all inside, because it's just poison. I remember seeing the after show of Leaving Neverland, the movie about Michael Jackson and the two boys, and Oprah did an after show on it, and this guy got up who'd been molested by a police officer as a child, and how it had affected him through his life, and the self-destruction he'd been doing through his life because he hadn't dealt with the trauma. And he made a really interesting comment. He goes, the problem with this sort of stuff is it's poison, and if you keep it trapped inside you, it festers just like a rattlesnake bite, and you've got to get it out of your system. And the only way you can do that is to talk to people, to reach out, to ask for help, and to seek people like yourself who have a blueprint that say, hey, I survived some of this. Here's the blueprint and how I did it. Might work for you. And, that's really important, but you have to reach out. You have to say something. And if you ever feel yourself in that position, talk to people, or there's a number 988 that you can take and call. It's a suicide hotline, emotional, if you're having emotional complications, you need some support, some help, some guidance, check that out. But please talk to somebody, get outside of yourself, because sometimes your ego brain is just whipping you to death. I know what that feels like. And you think sometimes the only way to get it to leave you alone is to quiet it permanently. And it's a weird fucking place to be. And it's not right. There's ways out of it. And someday you'll look back and go, God, I'm glad I asked for help. So that's my message is, as we go out, give us your final pitch out, people to buy the book, reach out to you for help, et cetera, et cetera.
Look, go to the website, askandycampbell.com. If you find it, if you're motivated to do it, buy a book. But what I think is most important that I want to leave with you, with your audience, Chris, is do not give up. Do not quit. Tomorrow, just like it is not guaranteed, a bad tomorrow is not guaranteed either. We can survive these things that have happened to us. We can even find a way to have some happiness in a day. And, somebody asked me one time, what am I most proud of having survived, that long list of stuff that you read off? And I said, the one thing that I am most proud of is that I never took away from the Creator the opportunity to move the universe in my favor. And I think that's what I would leave. Don't take away from the creator the opportunity to move the universe in your favor. You had a setback, but there are more tomorrows.
Yeah. I mean, we all have rainy days. You just got to get through them. Sometimes you just, I don't know, go in the bed, curl in a little ball and wait for tomorrow.
And that's okay, man. I mean, that's okay. You know,
I've had some days where I wake up and just every single thing is just off the rails, like just going wrong. You're just like everything, you know, spilling stuff, you're spilling the coffee, you know, just and yeah, it doesn't really happen very often to me, but every now and then I'm just like, you know what? Fuck this. I'm going to go back to bed.
You know, look,
back to bed and reset, and we're going to try this again tomorrow.
I had a day the other day where it just came to me. I was like, so many things happened in a row. I actually started laughing at it. I was like, so it's going to be that day.
It's going to be
Today's going to be that day. So we're just going to do it then. We're just going to go through it. This is the way it's going to be. You know, the goal is don't stay in bed. You know, some days when you're having people get depressed. I've been depressed, and you know, you got to stack together some little pieces of courage. Yeah. And sometimes it's just the little things that are wins, and sometimes just getting out of bed is a win.
Yeah.
But yeah, some days you just got to crawl back in and reset. You got to, you know, as a friend of mine used to say when he mixed metaphors, he said, some days you just got to drop back 10 and reboot.
Yeah. Yeah. Reboot. I mean, that's kind of a great sports analogy too. There's a lot of people that had to do that. You know, you look at Tom Brady's a couple of years ago, that run that were in the Super Bowl, they were down to a point that no other team in history and record.
Yeah, Chris, I was an Atlanta fan. I'm familiar with the game.
Oh,
you don't really have to describe more than that.
I'm a Raiders fan. They took my Super Bowl from me. So we're in the same boat.
Okay. Yeah.
But you know,
it would have been nice to win it and then lose it. We didn't even get that. We just won halftime and then
we just won it, and then some asshole came up with the tuck rule in '92.
Yeah. Who was that? Find that guy.
Yeah, find that guy. I'm still hunting for him, actually. No, I'm just kidding. Don't do that, folks. But no, that I'm still sore about that. I mean, Tom Brady's a great player, but probably the GOAT of all time. But still sore.
He could have been a great player without that call. I'll be honest.
Exactly.
His career was not based on that call. He'd have been just fine without it.
Just fine. But you know, there are those moments you just got to persevere through them. I use that sometimes. I don't want to go to the gym. I just don't want to go. I don't feel like it. Sometimes I feel like shit. I feel like combobulated, like my body's, 2 or 3 different pieces taped together. And, which is probably true. This is at 57. And so what I'll do is I'll just convince myself, okay, we're going to drive to the gym and we're just going to go. And if you don't like it, then we'll go home. But we're driving to the gym. And so then I'll force myself to go to the gym. And there's those recovery chairs. So I'm like, I'm going to sit in the recovery chair and it'll help loosen me up. It'll help get the muscles going, the blood flow going, and at least I'll feel better, because I feel like shit right now. So we'll just go do that. And then maybe we'll go do one thing. And so I just get in the car and I go. And we're not arguing about this. We're going to the gym and we'll just work it out how it goes. And a lot of times I go and just having that muscle memory of a habit kicks in. I smell the gym, I walk in, my body starts going, let's get after some stuff. That, or sometimes I'll just sit. And if I'm really hurting or feeling discombobulated, I'll sit and I'll be like, okay, well, let's do one machine. And like you said, fall back 10. Sometimes I'll just take the machine down 10 pounds, or 20 pounds back from what I normally push. And I'll just be like, let's just do a couple things here. If that you don't want to do that, then we'll go home. But we're going to do a set of reps or one set of reps. And then usually it kicks it on to gear and I'm back to normal and we're back to pushing weights and kicking ass and taking names. But I have to start eating the elephant one bite at a time.
So you brought that up. I was actually going to use that old cliche, but yeah, what happens is when you back the weight off, okay? So then it's like you do that and you're like, well, I'll just do this and, I'll move and then I'll move on. But then you do that one and you're like, what are you, a wuss? You're really just going to get up and walk away with but you're just going to get up and walk away with that. Like you can do more than that,
Yeah,
so you end up talking yourself into it. And I saw a thing one time about, because we've all heard this cliche forever. Like, how do you eat the elephant? One bite at a time. What they didn't tell me was I watched a YouTube video a few years ago. and it was a bunch of hyenas. A pack of hyenas had come upon this big bull elephant. Okay. And so it's like dinner, like he had just died of like old age or something, right? So he's laying there in the savannah, wherever it was at, in this, and so this pack of hyenas come up. And Chris, so they literally have to eat the elephant one bite at a time. Okay. It's not like a metaphor. It's physically eat the elephant one bite at a time. This is what nobody ever told me. And then that cliche made so much sense after I saw this video. Do you know where they start? The elephant's hide is so tough. Do you know where hyenas start when they find an elephant? Do you know what the part of the elephant they start with?
I want to say the belly, but I'm afraid to know what the other answer is.
They start with the asshole, man. They start they start with the shittiest place in the elephant. And because that's the softest thing on the elephant. It's his asshole. And I was thinking, why didn't somebody tell me that about eat the elephant one bite at a time? No wonder, because every time I do that, you're always starting at the shittiest place. And now it's like, that's the way the universe is designed. If you want to get to the good stuff, you got to go through the bad stuff.
You got to eat some shit.
Yeah. And so, I mean, it's just like, accept it. That's the way it is,
It's true. And we all eat shit in this life. I mean, I think my hardest problem in life was people used to tell me, what was the hardest thing I used to have a hard time with? I don't even know if I wrote about this in my book, but I used to have a hard time when people would tell me it's about the journey, Chris, and not the destination. And I always wanted that perfect arc, that perfect run to the exit, the perfect, I want to do things perfectly right. So there's no errors. And there's just, perfection is just mental insanity. And, realizing that there's going to be issues, there's going to be problems in life, and your job is to overcome those problems, survive them, is the better way to tackle it. Because everyone, some people look at people's lives like movie stars and stuff. They're like, oh, they just lived the perfect life and everything fell in their lap. And it's like, no, it's too bad we don't see some of these things, the sweat, bloods, and tears that people go through to survive these things and come out the other side.
Well, it's always, what is it, slowly at first, then all of a sudden, and all we ever see is the all of a sudden part. We didn't see the 20 years before, I mean, hey, she's a great actress now, but you weren't the one on Harvey Weinstein's couch, right? So, I mean, like everybody pays the price, like you weren't there for those 10 years, were you? No, So
just alone in a room with Harvey Weinstein. I've had days like that feel like that.
Yeah. Life, sometimes those are the kind of days you're just going to have, And
sometimes
life is basically, Chris, it is a series of difficulties. I wish somebody had told me this when I got married, right? Because they always say, I've been married 37 years this year. And somebody will say, or in the marriage vows, it says, for better or worse. Nobody said that, like, a lot of life is the worst part. Like, I don't need a wife for the good parts. That's right. Like I could have, it's like for the better parts, I'm good. What you need is you need a companion for the worst parts.
Yeah.
And I think, life, because there are a lot of worst parts in life.
Yeah.
And so I just don't have the same expectations I once had. I now see life as a series of difficulties for which I am grateful when something goes right. I am grateful for a good day. One of my purposes in life, just daily, one of my goals is I don't want to be the one that's causing, I don't want the day to have a bad me. Right? Like that's kind of it. I don't want the day to have a bad me.
Yeah. That's an interesting way to look at it. So give us your .coms as we go out, and final thoughts on the show.
AskAndyCampbell.com. That's the site. And I would just encourage your listeners, no matter what difficulty you're going through, and I don't diminish the difficulty you're going through. It could be a terrible, terrible loss, an unbelievable setback. I would encourage you that no matter what you're thinking right now or how you feel, you can survive. Do not quit. And no matter how small the steps you take moving forward, you're still moving forward.
Persevere, folks. One step in front of the other. Eat the elephant one bite at a time, even though it's the worst part to start with. And yeah, you're right. I mean, once you start eating the elephant, you kind of get into a vibe, if you will, or a jive, and it starts to move a little bit quicker. And maybe it's because you're not in the asshole anymore, and you're getting into the good meat or something.
Yeah, that's the only way to get to the heart and lungs, man. I mean, everybody wants the good stuff. It's just that sometimes you got to go through the bad stuff to get to it.
Yeah. I'm after the ribs for the barbecue. Anyway,
Yeah, right on.
I must be hungry. Nougat and ribs, and we got all that going on the show. So thank you very much for your uplifting message and sharing it, Andy. We certainly appreciate it, man.
The gratitude's all mine. Thank you for having me, Chris.
Thank you. And thanks to my audience for tuning in. Go to goodreads.com/Chris Voss, LinkedIn.com/Chris Voss, Facebook.com/Chris Voss. Order up his book wherever fine books are sold. Overcoming Life's Toughest Challenges. 15 breakthrough core beliefs to transform challenges into opportunities. Buy it for yourself and get some for your friends and pass them out. Because there's nobody who gets a perfect ride and a free pass to your life. I'm pretty sure of that. I could be wrong. There's a lot of people on the earth, 8 billion, but most people go through stuff. So thanks so much for tuning in. Be good to each other. Stay safe. We'll see you next time. And that should